defines undersea cable and pipeline problem in terms of business and licensing through new regulation. Bank Syariah Indonesia recorded 11 trillion rupiah digital banking transactions through BSI Mobile. Good afternoon, viewers. Market Headlines is ready to provide you a number of informations from business, economic, and capital market sectors. With me, Clara Antawijaya, and this is Market Headlines. Undersea cable and pipeline in Indonesia is under government spotlight these days as the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries officially socializes decree of the Minister of Marine Affairs and Fisheries number 14 of 2021 regarding undersea cable and pipeline. To overcome the undersea cable and pipeline problem in the terms of business and licensing, Minister of Marine Affairs and Fisheries socialized ministry regulations concerning undersea cable and pipeline. The regulations is expected to overcome messy undersea cable and pipeline governance. According to the minister, messy cable and pipeline installations makes it difficult for the government to manage fisheries transportations to mineral resources. Even according to him, these messy installations create the undersea conflicts because the state cannot control the cable and pipeline installations under the sea.
Tidak tertiban kegiatan penempatan pipa dan kabel bawah laut ini dapat menimbulkan konflik pemanfaatan ruang di laut dan menyebabkan pemerintah kesulitan dalam mengontrol penggelaran pipa dan kabel bawah laut. Seiring dengan pembahasan Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja, sejak awal tahun 2020, pemerintah berkomitmen untuk melakukan penataan alur pipa dan kabel bawah laut.
Along with the discussions of the Job Creation Law, the government finally rearranged the undersea pipelines and cables. The arrangement began in the early 2020 with the formations of national team based on the decisions of the coordinating ministry for the maritime affairs and investment. Jakarta, Muhammad Olga for IDX Channel. The Finance Ministry emphasizes the importance of paying and reporting taxes to the state. Deputy Minister of Finance, Suhasil Nazara, even stated that the tax revenues ensures the financing needs for the government programs such as vaccinations remain available.
Even though the economy is under pressure, it is said that tax revenues will still be the backbone of the current recovery. Deputy Minister of Finance Suhasil Nazara even said that tax revenue was one of the bases for the budget for vaccine procurement and the implementation of COVID-19 vaccination. With the budget requirement for buying vaccines and vaccinating up to 58 trillion rupiah, Suhasil appealed to the public to obey to pay taxes and report their annual tax returns. This is because tax revenue is one of the main bases for buying imported vaccines, which currently cannot be produced domestically.
Nasi untuk 185 juta penduduk Indonesia. Ini bukan jumlah yang kecil. Ini 185 juta penduduk Indonesia perlu dilakukan vaksinasi agar kita betul-betul memiliki herd immunity. Dan uang pajak menjadi salah satu tumpuan utama untuk melakukan membeli vaksin dan melakukan vaksinasi tersebut.
Suhasil added that budgeting for the procurement of vaccines and vaccination programs has become part of the 2021 state budget, while the government allocated 699 trillion rupiah for the program to handle COVID-19 and national economic recovery. From Jakarta, Raharjo Patmo for IDX Channel.
The government plans to expand the use of Geno's C19 detection tool for screening purposes in public facilities with high mobility. As we know so far, Geno's has been used at a number of train stations and airports in Indonesia.
The government plans to expand the use of Geno's C19 detection tools for screening purposes in public facilities with high mobility. Chairman of the Committee for Handling COVID-19 and National Economic Recovery, Erlangga Hartarto, asked Gadjah Mada University as a Geno's producer to increase production to reach 15,000 units in July. Erlangga claims that the current demand for Geno's has reached 20,000 units, so it is expected that production can reach 10 to 15,000 in June and July 2021. This request is based on the need for extensive screening, so it is hoped that tiered examinations, where the first stage of Geno's is carried out and the next stage is PCR, can strengthen anticipation of the spread of COVID-19.
Sangat bermanfaat, apalagi tadi disaksikan screeningnya cepat, sehingga di titik-titik mobilitas tinggi, terminal darat, terminal bis, sekarang sudah terminal kereta api, stasiun kereta api, nah ini bisa kita dorong. Jadi tentu ada layer daripada pengetesan. Jadi screening awal dengan Geno's, screening berikutnya kan bisa dengan PCR, sehingga cost-nya nanti akan secara keseluruhan akan turun. Tetapi yang sekarang kita harus kejar adalah kapasitas produksi harus ditingkatkan.
Erlangga revealed that Geno's C19 has undergone clinical trials in 10 hospitals in Indonesia and has received a distribution permit from the Health Ministry. Regarding accuracy, he said that Geno's accuracy rate was 97%. From Jakarta, Raharjo Patmo for IDX Channel.
Couple of weeks ahead to Ramadan, retail business actors are optimistic. Coupled with the ease of social restrictions and a good vaccination progress, retail business is expected to be in a good trend. Whereas Indonesian Retail Merchant Associations, or APRINDO, sees that Ramadan month will become boosters for Indonesia's retail business. Retail business actors who are members of APRINDO predicts that retail sector sales in Ramadan this year will likely increase up to 80%. Deputy Chairman of APRINDO, Tutum Rahanta, stated that the ease of social restrictions and a good vaccinations progress are expected to become boosters for retail sales in 2021. Even though it is predicted to be better than 2020, but still, it will not be as good as it was back then before the pandemic.
Tahun ini kita melihat ada sedikit kemajuan di mana vaksin-vaksin sudah disuntikkan, kemungkinan juga pelonggaran untuk diizinkannya boleh pulang kampung, pasti perayaan-perayaan juga walaupun dengan batasan-batasan tertentu yang diizinkan, dengan tetap memperhatikan protokol kesehatan. Nah, kita lihat pasti ada terjadi peningkatan.
Market headlines will be right back after this quick break. Stay tuned. Halo Sobat Milenial, berikut adalah pilihan investasi untuk Sobat Milenial. Yang pertama adalah tabungan di bank. Nah, tabungan di bank ini sifatnya sangat liquid, jadi dapat diambil kapanpun dan dalam bentuk cash. Yang kedua adalah deposito. Investasi dalam deposito dapat diambil ketika jatuh tempo dengan tenor tertentu dan imbal hasilnya 5-6% per tahun. Dan yang ketiga adalah investasi dalam bentuk obligasi. Nah, obligasi ini dibagi dua. Ada obligasi yang diterbitkan oleh pemerintah dan ada obligasi yang diterbitkan oleh perusahaan swasta. Yang keempat, investasi saham. Dengan berinvestasi saham, kita akan mendapatkan dividen atau bagi hasil dari perusahaan. Dan yang kelima adalah investasi reksadana. Reksadana adalah produk investasi yang dikelola oleh manajer investasi. Dalam reksadana dapat menjanjikan imbal hasil 10-20% per tahun. So, kamu pilih investasi yang mana?
Akhirnya saya berpikir gimana sih secara online, secara digital itu bisa memberi dampak buat banyak orang.
Apa yang Miss pelajari dari rugi? Karena kan pasti ada momen di mana seorang investor itu dia rugi, portofolionya itu merah.
Nomor satu banget yang paling penting disadari oleh pemula yaitu manajemen resiko. Jangan cuma ngelihat langit, tapi juga ingat bahwa kaki kita tuh masih di tanah gitu. Jangan cuma lihat cuan, tapi ingat masih ada resiko kerugian.
Welcome back to Market Headlines. The Organizations for Economic Cooperations and Development raises its projections for Indonesia's economic growth in 2021 to 4.9%. It is believed that the rise of the global trade will boost Indonesia's export and consumption.
The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, raises its projection for Indonesia's economic growth in 2021 from 4% to 4.9%. It is believed that rise of global trade will boost Indonesia's exports and consumption. OECD Secretary General Angel Gurria explained that the economic recovery due to the COVID-19 pandemic shock would occur gradually. Economic recovery also depends on support for households and corporations. There are still many households and sectors that are vulnerable to the pandemic. Angel also recommended that Indonesia take advantage of this momentum to advance major reforms, from strengthening the tax base, liberalizing markets, fighting corruption, and overcoming regional disparities. Meanwhile, responding to OECD projections, Minister of Finance Sri Mulyani revealed that the Indonesian government has taken many policies as an effort to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. One of them can be seen from the widening of the budget deficit from the previous 1.7% of GDP to 6% of GDP in 2020. From IDX Channel team, reported.
As we know that the COVID-19 pandemic has been going on since the beginning of 2020 and is still ongoing today. However, 2021 is believed to be the year of economic recovery for both global and Indonesian economies. So various signals have marked the recovery, including the projections issued by a number of global institutions, one of which is OECD, which has released the estimates of the economic growth in the number of countries and Indonesia. So how positive is the OECD's projections for this year? So let's see the data in the next graphic. Through the first graphic, we can see the forecast from OECD about G20 member countries and global. First of all, we can see United States that is projected to have 6.5% economic growth in 2021. And then moving on to India, whereas it is projected to have 12.6% recovery in 2021. And then moving on to Germany and France. Let's begin from Germany by 3% economic growth in 2021 and France for 5.9% economic growth in 2021. And when we talk about global growth, here it is. OECD has raised its 2021 global growth forecast to 5.6%, which is 1.4% higher than it is estimated in December 2020. So OECD sees that activity has been picked up in many sectors of the economy, and rollout of the vaccines, while still uneven, is gaining momentum. The huge fiscal stimulus in the U.S., meanwhile, is likely to provide major boost for the economy. The OECD estimates that the U.S. stimulus package is going to add 1 percentage point to global growth. But vaccines have to be deployed faster to achieve the global economic recovery, as the performance across the country is still uneven. The pandemic is increasing social inequalities. Lockdown measures are particularly affecting vulnerable groups and also risk long-term damage to the job prospects and living standards for many people. And then the OECD estimates that the world output is expected to reach pre-pandemic levels by mid-2021. But the pace and durations of the recovery will depend on the race between vaccines and emerging variants of the virus. So how about the projections of Indonesia's economic growth in 2021? So let's go to the next graphic. Here it is. Through the next graphic, we can see many global institutions has projected Indonesia's economic growth in 2021. First of all, we can start from OECD by providing 4.9% economic growth for Indonesia in 2021. And moving on to the International Monetary Fund, that is projected Indonesia to have 4.8% economic growth in 2021. And then moving on to the World Bank, it's kind of pessimistic by providing 4.4% of economic growth in 2021 for Indonesia. And moving on to Asian Development Bank by providing 4.5% economic projections for Indonesia in 2021. And the OECD Secretary General Angel Gurriera said that the Indonesian economy would continue to show recovery in the coming years, with the projections of economic growth reaching 5.4% in 2022. Gurriera said that the recovery process would take place gradually. However, it will depend on the recovery process in the health sector, which is currently still shoulder the uncertainty. He added that although there was pressure on income, which had an impact on consumption, and the trading conditions that had begun to move had also helped the recovery process in Indonesia. And likewise, Bank of Indonesia believes that the improvement in domestic economy will continue, driven by the global economy, vaccinations, and strengthened policy synergies. And the accelerations of vaccinations carried out by the government, as well as public discipline and health protocol, will support national economic recovery. So the central bank predicts economic growth in 2021 will be in the range of 4.3 to 5.3%. And not only projecting economic growth figures, the OECD also provides suggestions for Indonesia to be able to take advantage for the momentum of economic recovery. So let's see at the next graphic. Here it is. We can see some advices from OECD in optimizing growth momentum. Here it is. First of all, optimize the job creation flow to strengthen the business environment. And the second one is that OECD suggests Indonesia to strengthen efforts to address environmental problems and issues. And the third one is that investing in competencies and skills and reforming the labor market to create better jobs. And yes, responding to OECD advices, Minister of Finance Sri Mulyani explained that the government had taken many policies as an effort to deal with the pandemic. The impact of these policies can be seen from the widening of budget deficit from 1.7% to 6% in 2020. She considers that the deficit is relatively lower when compared to OECD's countries, but she ensures that the government is committed to gradually returning the state budget deficit to a level below 3%. On the other hand, the minister is committed to increase the tax ratio and carrying out fiscal consolidations as the pandemic subsides. And as a year that is believed to be a momentum for recovery, what are the strategies implemented by the government this year? And what are the strategies? So let's move on to the next graphic. Here it is. We can see the strategies and also challenges in Indonesia's economic recovery momentum in 2021. Starting from the strategies, we can see that the accelerations of the national vaccination program, of course. And the second one is that continuing the enforcement of restrictions on micro-scale community activities. And the third strategy is that accelerating the realizations of government spending in handling COVID-19 pandemic. While in the other hand, we can see the challenges. Of course, we have numbers of challenges. First challenge I mentioned is about the escalations of the COVID-19 cases. And the second challenge is that widening this fiscal deficit. And the third one is that the global debt risk. And yes, in the midst of
the global economic recovery, there are several risks, and one of which is the risk of the global debt that I mentioned before. No exceptions. Government debt has been piling up. Bank Permata chief economist Joshua Pardede said that the risk of increasing global debt triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic has pushed down the state revenues. And at the same time, state spending tends to increase in an effort to limit the negative impact of the pandemic, with a large amount of fiscal stimulus programs, of course. And even though there's a risk of increasing debt, developed and developing countries, Joshua assessed that Indonesia's economic fundamentals are still good. And yes, viewers, even though various strategies have been implemented, but without the involvement of all stakeholders, the targets of the policies will be relatively difficult to achieve. And therefore, synergy is an important thing that must be done by all of us. And stay tuned to market headlines, because we will be right back after this quick break.
Akhirnya saya berpikir gimana sih secara online, secara digital itu bisa memberi dampak buat banyak orang.
Apa yang bisa pelajari dari rugi? Karena kan pasti ada momen di mana seorang investor itu dia rugi, portofolionya itu merah.
Nomor satu banget yang paling penting disadari oleh pemula yaitu manajemen resiko. Jangan cuma ngelihat langit, tapi juga ingat bahwa kaki kita tuh masih di tanah gitu. Jangan cuma lihat cuan, tapi ingat masih ada resiko kerugian.
Ingin menjalani kehidupan yang mapan dan masa depan yang sejahtera? Sikapi uang dengan bijak. Mulailah berinvestasi di pasar modal. Dengan membeli saham melalui Bursa Efek maupun perusahaan sekuritas, Anda dapat menikmati hasil keuntungan dari perusahaan-perusahaan besar yang tersedia. Pastikan Anda berinvestasi di perusahaan yang memiliki izin resmi, cerdas mengelola, masa depan sejahtera. Otoritas Jasa Keuangan, lembaga pengawas industri jasa keuangan yang terpercaya.
PT Garuda Indonesia Persero Tbk telah melakukan pemutusan kontrak penyewaan 12 pesawat Bombardier CGR-1000.
Kita memutuskan untuk mengembalikan 12 pesawat Bombardier CRJ-1000.
Pemerintah berencana memberikan insentif pajak penjualan atas barang mewah atau PPNBM untuk kendaraan bermotor.
Tujuan dari insentif ini adalah dalam rangka mendorong pemulihan ekonomi lebih cepat.
Yes, first, let's take a look at Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement. So earlier today, JSCI was open at the level of 6,328.07, and then approaching the closing time of the first session, the index was on the level of 6,289.42, and then the index was showing weakening trend by the second session closing time. The index was closed at the level of 6,252.71. In short, JSCI went down 0.77%. And next, we're going to see the sectoral movement. Leading the dynamics of today's trading, we got agriculture that went up 1.43%. Meanwhile, basic industry went down 1.9%. Constructions went down 1.36%, and mining went down 0.16%. Next, we are going to see the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. So rupiah opened a level of 14,415. Rupiah was also showing weakening trend towards US dollar. I was closed at the level of 14,434. In summary, rupiah went down 0.33%. Bank recorded digital banking transactions through BSI Mobile as of February 2021 hit 11 trillion rupiah. This went up 77.24%. Bank Syariah Indonesia is aware that COVID-19 has accelerated digitations of banking as customer expectations changed during the pandemic, and therefore the company takes the momentum as the opportunity. As of February 2021, there has been significant amount of new customers that signed up through BSI Mobile. From whole new Bank Syariah Indonesia customers, 56% were signing up through online. Another digital products that have shown improvement as well, such as online gold pawn that recorded 57.5 billion rupiah outstanding, and also gold saving that hit more than 20,000 customers within 46 kilogram values.
Sebagai alhamdulillah ini sebagai catatan kami di Februari 2021 itu sudah 56% pembukaan rekening itu sudah melalui online via BSI Mobile. Jadi ini dorongan untuk digital saya rasa bukan kita harus bagaimana, tapi memang sudah saatnya kita harus siapkan. Dan masyarakat sepertinya memang
Government textile issuer Eratex Jaya is targeting 10% sales growth in 2021. Various methods have been taken by the company to achieve this year's sales target.
Corporate Secretary Jaya Juliarti Puji elaborated company's plan to achieve sales growth. First, by adding more product diversification. This is expected to create demand and attract new market share. And the second plan is by controlling cost so that the production cost will remain low amidst tight market competition. Third is expanding the market. So far, the company depends on the United States to export its products. According to company's press release, the majority of textile products sales goes to US and Japan. As of the third quarter of 2020, the sales proportions for United States reached 60.44%, while Japan was 32.04%. But this year, the company plans to seek another market beside United States. From all sources, IDX Channel.
Step aside from market conditions, as coronavirus pandemic takes a big role on current economic situations, here it is an update data about coronavirus globally. And the news close on market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy Economic, Business and Capital Market Channel. I'm Clara Antawijaya. Have a nice evening and stay safe.